So, welcome everyone to the last Infinity webinar of 2021 before we go into the Christmas break. This one is together with Differentia Consulting, and the topic is Superpowers for HR Management. We're really excited to have, just a minute. There we go. Really excited to have this nice group of people. We have really two very prestigious minds with us. Maria Oresca, CTO of Infinity and Qlik Partner Ambassador, and also Stephanie White, lead Qlik developer for Differentia Consulting and Qlik Luminary. I'm Angie, COO of Infinity, and we also have Martin, the last wonderful mind, 20 years of Qlik experience, of experience. So I don't know if you guys want to say something. Welcome to the webinar.
Thank you, Angie. Thank you very much. And you are also a wonderful mind here. So we have like 4 wonderful minds. I'm really looking forward to it because yeah, each of us can bring a view on from their own perspective. I would say each of us having been in business or technology for quite some time. So I'm really looking forward. Like we didn't practice this, so this is the first time. So looking forward.
I think, yeah. So Micah and Stephanie, we're really looking forward to the demos that you're going to give us later. This is obviously the main thing that everyone is here to see. But before we go into that, we're going to shortly introduce first Differentia and then Infinity as what the offering is. So Stephanie, may I ask you to let us?
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, so just to do an introduction to Differentia Consulting and who we are and what we do. So we are an IT management consultant organisation. We offer full cycle support and delivery to currently over 500 customers. The business was established in 2001. We have been in business for 20 years now. I've not worked for Differentia for 20 years at this point, but I do work with a great variety of people within the organisation, and we have a variety of lots of IT skill sets within the team. So we do offer end-to-end full cycle, so data transformation, analytics, security, managed service across data, and primarily using the Qlik platform. And just a little bit about myself. So I have been working with the Qlik platform now for over 8 years. I absolutely love it, and it's grown so much in those 8 years, and I've been exposed to quite a lot. As mentioned, I was previously a Qlik luminary, now known as a Qlik alumni. But during those 3 years of having the privilege to be part of that programme, I was exposed to working with very talented people from across the globe. And now within my current role, working with fantastic Qlik technology partners such as Infinity, it's been really great over at least the last few months, where we've collaborated quite a lot around a lot of good customer use cases that we've had, and engaging with the roadmap, and also participating in any new releases and providing feedback. So we've got a great partnership with you guys, and thank you for allowing me to come along today and demo one of the products that we've got.
Yeah, I think the feeling is definitely mutual. We're really happy to have you as a partner. Thanks for the insights that we get from you. Really, the work that we do together is really exciting, as you say. And I think we'll kind of see from later on. It's a really interesting thing you have to show. And yeah, here we are, Infinity. I'll hand over to the CEO, Martin, to introduce us.
Yeah, thank you, Angie, and Steph. Thank you very much for partnership to you, to Differentia, and everyone in Differentia. Really great cooperation. So yeah, who's Infinity? Infinity is Qlik's technology partner and trusted extension developer. We've been really working with Qlik for years, like as a spin-off from Qlik's master reseller, it's been more than 10 years, like knowing the Qlik ecosystem, working closely with Qlik and really knowing the product in and out. And in a certain moment, we saw that we could maybe add some more value, and we formed a great team, which decided to just go for it and develop some value-added functionality for Qlik and for Qlik's customers. We're working with partners, so we're covering basically the whole world with our network. In UK, where we have a very good cooperation with Differentia Consulting, so really that's how we operate. So we always try to bridge the technology with the knowledge of our partners' expertise. And yeah, the way how we do it, it's the unique products. So we focus on searching where we could really find something which wasn't available in Qlik ecosystem before, or which maybe where we can really add some unique value to what's available in the market. So that's our approach. That's what you can basically expect from us: developing unique products, secure, enterprise ready, so something that's really reliable. Yeah, so that's Infinity. Can we go to the next slide, please? Okay, so in terms of the products which we have in our stack, it's we're focusing on Infinity Suite, which is a suite of these three products. It's Forms, Flow, and Mole. As you can see here, Forms is basically the essence of also what we will be showing today, but also Flow and Mole, all of these three integrated in one solution. Forms is the product that helps you really act upon your data, add data into Qlik, create document workflows, approvals, actions, planning and budgeting, really plenty of use cases where you can interact with your data. So whenever the analytics ends, then the actionability starts, right? So that's where Forms basically has its place. Infinity Flow is more like process and workflow extension, which allows you to define processes and also give process context to data. So see data not just as tables and graphs, but also data in context of processes, which is amazing, right? There are so many use cases in so many companies where this has huge impact, like manufacturing, finance. Also visual storytelling, great feature where you can really help people navigate within linear workflows through Qlik. So a lot that we can show, and I'm sure Micah, Maria will show some amazing stuff there at the end. And yeah, Mole, unstructured data connector, files connector, where we can connect files, content, metadata, and really get unstructured data under control. So that's in terms of products. And also looking very much to the practical application that Steph is going to present. Like, I haven't seen it. It's the first time I will see it, and I just can't wait.
Well, I think it's also important to say, because we have Maria on the call, that on the webinar, and I'm sorry, I'm kind of not finding the right words today, I'm not sure. That actually, I was in a meeting with you the other day, Maria, and you were saying that actually 80% of what's developed for functionalities come directly from feedback from customers, which is really exciting. And so it's really exactly what is needed. That's really an important focus for you, right?
Exactly. That's how we do it. So we always listen to customers and partners. We have certain strategy that we build based on this information and based on our knowledge of the ecosystem, and always either add these features or verify, validate our thoughts about it. But since we have Micah here, so I'm sure Micah will have space to comment on this and provide her feedback since she's in charge of the product. So that would be really amazing to hear it from her.
I definitely can, but I suggest we can continue with the main agenda for the webinar for now.
She wants to show the product, not talk about the products. Like, stop talking,
yes.
guys. Okay, I'll do. Yeah, just then, without further ado, last theory slide before we go on. Actually, there's one more after that, but it's more related to the solution. Before I was in Infinity, I was a CFO for 10 years implementing Qlik. Qlik and Inphinity, and I'm passionate about this, especially about HR, because we didn't manage, because we didn't have Infinity. It's simple, low-code approach. In general, it says here to planning, but to planning the whole processes and the planning the apps. It's unique. The only Qlik native solution on the market. It has also a lot to do with the security that it can offer, and higher value in the sense of it takes your Qlik and you can do so many more things with it. I don't need to say much about that because Stephanie and Maria will just show you in a few minutes. And planning that HR management. I just did 3 planning webinars, so I'm kind of got my head needs to restart. Yeah, as I said, as a CFO, HR was the biggest issue, and that's why I think this webinar is particularly exciting. I always say that as a non-data person, HR data is kind of relatively straightforward data. It's not usually complex in terms of but as it says here, a lot of different sources, unstructured data. We couldn't get that under control. Poor visibility of over the HR process, often just because there's data security all around that. So you can't usually show it to people who can manage the data within the organization. And for this reason, it becomes even more important to have a tool that's easy for the end user who's maybe not so data literate to manage the data. So I don't know, guys, before we go, one small, if you have some other like experience with your customers in that sense that maybe inspired the applications that you're showing today.
Yeah, just and we both been in several practical implementations, and really, like, I would say after bringing Infinity to market, I see 2 worlds in the world of HR actually, because we have companies and HR departments with really like huge HR systems and looking for huge HR investments, and then we have companies and customers with who are looking for something more agile, something that they can simply adjust, tailor, maybe somehow tweak to their processes, their current HR processes, and really start immediately. So that's the space where we go with Infinity to really enable HR managers to just start.
Mm. And with that, we will just start that in the customer success demonstration. So I hand over to Stephanie to show us your amazing application that you prepared.
Thank you, Angeline. Okay, let me share my screen. Okay, hopefully my screen is now sharing.
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Okay, so just a little bit of a background then to this particular application that our customer has kindly allowed us to demonstrate in this webinar. I think it's a very powerful example of where we're using absence data from our HR systems and using forms and flow to streamline the process. So this particular example that I'm about to demonstrate is from our National Healthcare Service in the UK. And they came to us with a process which they were currently capturing their absence data and linking it back to, which unfortunately I don't have to explain to anyone in this call, linking it back to COVID, which we would all be very familiar with, particularly COVID data. And what they wanted to do with the absence data, or what they were currently doing in a maybe a more labour-intensive process, was capturing the COVID link to that particular absence and many other data connections using Word documents, a little bit of email, and sometimes even just face-to-face conversations, trying to capture all of the data and centralize it into one location. So this particular project has allowed us to do that. So without further ado, I'm going to open up the first application that we have here. So as I mentioned, the current process before we built the application was very manual. It lacked a lot of data security because, as we're all aware, a lot of HR data can be very sensitive. And with the data getting passed around via email or stored in Word documents, it was quite hard to extract that data and store it in a central location that we could do anything of value with it. So this has allowed us to have a much more cleaner approach and more accurate data storage as well. So we know where the data is, we know where we can get it from, and there's no more manual data being passed around in ways that I guess they weren't comfortable with. But the end goal as well was to also build an application that for the end users it would be very intuitive. We wanted to simplify the process, store everything in a central location and have easy navigation. So we didn't want to complicate what was maybe already a complex data gathering of absence data. We wanted to simplify it and give the users a very clean approach to capture all of that data. So what we have here, I'm working closely with Maria recently. We've been able to capture a flow process as well, which I absolutely love, because this flow process we can see on the screen is actually showing the end-to-end flow of this particular process. And I mentioned it was very complex, but it just shows that with flow, it can simplify what seems like a complex process into a very straightforward flow. So it's actually really good to see our end-to-end process and different steps along the way that we require different people to engage with the data, to input data, and to alert different people at different parts of the process. So we've been able to use Flow here to navigate. So for those who are very familiar with Qlik Sense, we do of course have the native navigation, but what I love about Flow is, again, it just makes the application very intuitive for our end users. They can use Flow to navigate to different parts of the application if we do have multiple sheets. So I'm going to use my Flow to move to the first part of this particular journey. So as I mentioned, the process, so we're gathering data from the HR system where we currently store absence data against an individual. But this particular process is where we want to start to capture the additional detail around the absence. And if that particular employee was off due to COVID, then there's quite a lot of information we have to gather. With it being our national healthcare service, there's a lot of moving parts to a particular person being COVID positive, and we have to then link it back to things like were they in contact with any patients, were they in contact if they were an ambulance driver, which particular vehicle were they driving at the time they may have been positive, has that particular vehicle had a deep clean since the positive case was reported. It's just a few examples of some of the stuff that we're trying to capture here. And again, back to the sensitivity of the data, we're a lot more comfortable now that the data has been stored in a central location. So in this case here, we have used forms to capture the initial start of the process, which is where an absence has been reported, and we have to start to gather the information and indicate what the absence reason is. Before I demonstrate how forms is working for us here, I do want to mention, and it just shows the ability that forms has to interact with data in different ways. We have been working on a later release of this particular application where we're going to remove the manual step to add a new case and load the HR data directly into the forms extension object, where it will generate a new record for us. So it's not removing a step from the process, but it's removing an individual having to pick up that part of the process, and we're automating it, which is the key goal as well. We want to automate as many of these steps as possible, and leave room for the users to engage with the data, do analysis over the data, which they haven't been able to do before. So here I'm just going to add a new case, just as an example. We've been able to add some logic into the form where we want to capture particular records. In this case, it's picking up the year and the month, the month being December. And we have different options that we can use. So in some cases, we have free text. And in other cases, we have hard-coded drop-down where we want the user to select against a drop-down. And further throughout the process, we have drop-downs that interact with previous drop-downs. So for example, if we select Manchester, we may then have a drop-down with additional locations within Manchester. So we can filter the drop-downs to reduce the number of records that the person's seen depending on the selection. So it's really interactive, and the users have absolutely loved it so far from what they've seen. So I'm just going to put in an example here, just for the purpose of the demonstration. And I'm going to OK that, and I'm going to save my form. So for this particular part of the process, what this is doing is it's just creating a record with a new case ID to state that this particular person, I haven't put a staff name in there, has been reported from our HR system as being absent. What we do have in place is we use web connectors to basically then take this data and ping an alert to the line manager of the individual to state, we've got an absence for a person in your team and we now need you to provide us with additional information around that absence. A key thing being, was it COVID related or was it just a general absence? So what I will do is show you the next part in the process. So this is just an indication of the moving parts. So we've got multiple moving parts, but what we've been able to do is build the full process into 3 separate applications, but we feed all of the data that we report across the 3 applications into one central location. So the end result is we capture all of this information in one central place. So if I use my flow here, I can basically at this step of the journey here, where the line manager has been notified that a new case has been captured. So what we actually have is we do have a direct link in the email to the line manager to state you have to come to this location and fill out information about that particular absence. So in this case here, I'm just going to use my update option to refresh the data, which is basically taking the data that I've just created in here and pulling it now into the second application. And if I go into the drop down, for those who were paying great attention, you'll see that the December 0002 was the new record that I created. So for this particular example, I'm just going to demonstrate that that's the case ID that we want to capture more information about. One of the things to point out at this point, and although during this demonstration I haven't given a clear, what I should have really done was update the record for ESR number so we could actually see the record coming through. But what we do have is any detail that's captured in a previous part of the form. We were finding that when the process was described to us that there was a lot of duplication going on. So we can take what was already reported a part of the process and publish it into the next part of the process, so people don't have to repeat what we should already know. So the purpose here is then to capture additional information to what we already have. What I would like to demonstrate is using Flow, and Maria, thank you so much for this, because this is probably my favourite part of this particular application, because one of the feedback that we had from the customer was we have a few moving parts, so depending on what the outcome of the absence is, there may be further information required, as in if it is a non-COVID absence, then there's parts of the form that we've then hidden to say, okay, we've got all the information that we need, therefore that this part of the process is now complete. But in the case where it is a particular COVID absence, then we have different forms to capture different types of information about that particular absence, depending on what has been created against this absence record. And what we've been able to do here is put that full process into a pop-up window. So it's very engaging and it's very clear to the user which step of the journey they have to complete at which part of the process. So, so it's refreshing my data. And as I demonstrated, I selected this case ID. So this is basically this part of the process, but it's done the update, selecting the case, and then within my pop-up, I can then go ahead and complete the information about this particular absence. And what I'll do is I'll just select a particular absence reason. So in this case, I will state it as a COVID absence, and this particular person was symptomatic. So I'll just save that. Oh, of course, when you're doing live demos, this is what happens. This is basically, we've added some additional features to the form as well to add some validation checks, because some of the fields are mandatory and require specific values to be created, to be put into that individual part of the form. And that's what this is basically telling me, is that I've not entered a job role or an email address. So by doing that would then allow me to go to the next step of the form. So let me just put in an example here. Okay. And then again, we capture stuff such as vaccinations, the source of the how the person was notified that they may have had a link to someone with COVID, or if they have taken their own PCR, they've had symptoms. If the lateral flow test, so if you are maybe not the person with COVID, but you've had a direct contact with someone with COVID and you have to take a lateral flow for 10 days, we capture all of that information. And one of the key things to highlight, without going into too much detail, which I may already have done around specifically the detail of the data, but the great thing for forms is COVID as a great example is changing significantly all the time in terms of the rules. So country to country, the different rules that we have to take if we are in direct contact with someone with COVID, or we test for COVID ourselves, how many days we have to isolate, if we can, how many days we have to take lateral flows, how we have to report it. And the great thing with forms is that we have been able to follow those changes throughout building the application in a really easy manner. And I think an example of that was if someone in your household had COVID, the whole household had to isolate. So in this case, if there was a staff member for the NHS and their partner tested positive, then they also had to take the time off work because they had to isolate for 10 days. And at some point during August, October time, that in the UK changed in that you could still attend work as long as you provided lateral flows for 10 days. So we had to be able to capture that change in the form dynamically and really quickly to keep up with the rules and the regulations of COVID. And it was really easily done. And we didn't lose any old historical data, and it was really easy to be able to just edit the application to suit the new guidelines, which again, the client was really happy with, because that's going to happen quite a lot, I think, still, again, even into next year. So, okay, so I think if I can just demonstrate one last part of the application here, which is the key part in all of this. Sorry if I jump back into this application. One of the things that we were looking to do was to centralize the full process into a solution that would not only allow for cleaner and more accurate data storage, but it would also provide an intuitive product for the end users to engage with. So the goal was to simplify what was considered quite a complex process. But one of the things that came out of it was the fact that the data that was previously being captured in locations it was really difficult to gather from is now that we can take all of that data and we can start to create trends across the data, visualizations that can show outliers. And this is something that they haven't had before. And as I've probably described, there's so much to this particular application and this particular process that it was almost really difficult to see what those trends were. And being able to use forms and flow to gather all of that, we can now focus on the next step, which is to do analysis across the data, pinpoint if there's particular cases where COVID is higher than other locations, and do some potentially even predictive analysis as well across the data set. So it's very, very powerful, and it's been really easy to develop something that was delivered as this is a very complex process. So they're really delighted with it. And yeah, so I think with that, I will stop there because I think I've probably demonstrated probably quite a lot there, and I don't want to go into too much more detail. But yeah, so thank you for letting me share that. And yeah.
Well, I think it was amazing. Thank you, Stephanie. I think this is exactly what I was talking about when it's relatively straightforward data, but it's so important to have that information. And if you don't have an easy way to manage it, you just get lost. And as you say, I mean, the rules changing sometimes from one moment to the next. I mean, really one moment to the next, and you know, and to have the tool where you can relatively easy change that. No, so really thank you, and it's always nice to see the product utilized in a way that really helps. I mean, it really helps. I mean, save lives. It was written, make hospitals a safer place. Yeah. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
And it's also funny because you know, I also had COVID a couple of months ago, and I'm for sure I was recorded with these forms as a COVID test and trace patient. So having been recorded by our own product, it's a kind of a good feeling.
Yeah, no, definitely. A great example. Thank you. This is not all we have. We have the next fantastic applications to show. So Maria, please.
Yeah, thank you very much for showing what you did. Amazing job, Stephanie. I must say it loud one more time again. It's really great. I have seen your presentation, I think for the third time right now in a row, but I still feel very proud seeing what you did and what you accomplished with our product. So yeah, it's really great job. And looking forward to the future and the next versions of the application. And for now, yeah, let me present another application, and honestly, one of my favorites, and the very first demo application I have created for Infinity Suite. So please let me know when you see my screen. Something about HR should be written here on the screen. Yeah. Okay, perfect. So yeah, I think that actually most of us feel that HR is quite underestimated when it comes to power in data, insights, and the way how data can help make decisions. Because I think that it's somewhere deep inside our heads, because there are some data obvious departments in the company, like, for example, finance, accounting, production, digital marketing, generator of a lot of data. And on the other hand, you have HR, people making decisions about people, working with people. So when you need to prioritize or decide where to invest your money or the budget you have for the digital transformation or some activities around it, you naturally very often prioritize those data obvious departments and use cases because you expect a higher return on investment there. But exactly because of this approach being here for quite a long time, HR became the exact department where one investment can really bring giant added value and giant return for the company. So yeah, let's think about what is a really huge waste of money. I think one of the hugest waste of money in a company is to hire and enable new person you realize in a few months that you don't need. Right? All the process, everyone involved in the hiring, then in enabling the person, some managerial capacity, other resources needed for that, and then you find out that the person is not needed. So the resources could be invested in a much better way. But to make the right decision when doing the hiring, you need to have the data. If it's in a head of a person or somewhere in a system, yeah, but you need data to make the right decision. And for example, the way where you can have the data like that can be what I'm sharing with you right now. So this is this template application for HR I put together. And on the very first screen, you see the similar approach that Stephanie used in her app. So there is Infinity Flow showing me the flow of the application, what's inside the app, what's the way how I should think about it, starting with team overview. Because doing the right decisions about the team should start with having all the information I need about the team. And when I click on this icon here, again, we are using this wizard style flow that helps me understand what's going on. And this might be very, very helpful, especially for people who find complex sheets with many data visualizations overwhelming, because here I'm pretty sure I know what I should be focused on. It's this one visualization I see right now. So let's say that here I see that I have a quite strong marketing here in America, but let's build a better marketing team there. I'm still in Qlik, so everything I do in Qlik works here. So I can make selections, confirm those selections, and go to the next one. Here I can select the currency. Okay, I'm thinking about Americas, so it's going to be dollar. Let's switch to dollar. Now I see information about the salaries in my team in Americas because that's the region I selected. And I see it in dollars because that's what I wanted, right? When I have this information, I can see the data about current people, current employees in those specific regions. So I can see also their monthly average salary. I can fill my own insights data directly here related to a specific job title. So for example, results, that might be something represented by values, but we know that sometimes it's quite hard. So let it be stars for now. Any data, if it's correct, is better than no data. So it can be qualified by using stars. And I can see the required hiring. And as I mentioned, I wanted to build a marketing hub there. So social media marketer already has a required hiring field here. And based on this information, I see that hiring has been approved. Great. If I want, I can hire the demand. Okay, only 5 people per team is allowed. Okay, let's have it 5. If I don't want to do any changes here, or I want to clear what I did, I quickly can, because that's like editor for me. And this is the main information, including the actionability part I had about team overview. So now it's up to me whether I have time to go deeper. And if no, then no. If yes, I'll be redirected to the sheet where I can all the information, all the data to deep dive into this problematic. And as you can see, what I have selected, this North America region, is still there because we are in Qlik. On the other hand, when I clear those selections, I can see that I don't have any product people there in North America, right? Let me select that again and ask my colleagues what they think about it. By clicking on this very intuitive icon, I open this object commenting editor where I can share with everyone in my team my thoughts that we should hire someone technical here. Don't you think? And when I click save, my comment is saved here alongside with my current selections. And let me show you why that's important. Because when my colleague now opens the application, he or she sees directly here that there is a comment about this specific visualization, opens the very same object commenting window, see the comment, and here are options apply selections and show selections. So I now see what was here on the screen when my colleague shared this comment or question with me. And I can redo the very same by clicking Apply Selections. Yeah, so this is what she was asking about. Okay, perfect. And then I can very easily reply, yes, I agree, let's discuss on Monday or anything I want. Now it's perfect, right? So this is quite easy and intuitive way how you can collaborate with your colleagues very, very quickly where the data is, directly where the data is. You don't need to do any exports and share it via emails or something like that. You are still in the very same secure platform you know in Qlik. Let me go to the next sheet. Yeah, I can use this navigation panel, but also Infinity Flow, as was shown also in the previous demonstration. And on this sheet, I am now looking for the right person. So I have this information about the people who are looking for a job. And I can enter some updates, some information I know about them, like, for example, the city where a specific person is seated. And what's very powerful when using Infinity Forms within Qlik is that you can upload file directly to the application. So, for example, for this Samantha Owl, I'll very easily select her CV. And when I click Save, my updates is now saved to the database. The CV is saved to the server. Anyone can come here, click on the CV and see it directly here in the browser. You don't need to resend it 10 times via emails to your colleagues. So it's accessible to everyone who should have access to that. And when I click Update, what's now done is that all the data, all the structured data I filled in a database is loaded into the application so I can use them. But not only that, this is exactly the place where Infinity Mole, our file connector, is very useful because it reads the content of all those CVs. It literally goes word by word of those Word documents, of those PDFs, and returns their content. And here in this applicant search, I can very, very, very easily see the giant power of combination of structured and unstructured data. Because let's say that I'm looking for this technical person, so I can select some positions I want to fill right now. And I know that there's someone who mentioned the Java in the CV. Okay, it was Paul Rubik. This is the way how you can search through all the CVs without opening the CV. That's a really time saver for anyone.
Magic. That's a magic.
Yeah. And we are still in the process, right? Because everything we do in a company, and especially during the day we are paid for, is part of the process. So let's go to the process section here. Yeah. I approve to hire Paul Rubik. I save this information here, and it's visible for everyone who sees the application. It also can send email to notify someone that Paul Rubik has been approved. And now you can start communicating with him. And once Paul Rubik is new employee of a company, he becomes part of a company hierarchy. And this is another way how you can creatively use Infinity Flow, not only for processes, but also for visualizing hierarchies. And having the information not only about associations between people, but also about their performance or type of employment at one place, you know you can rely on because it's the most actual every single minute of a day. That's something very valuable. And you don't need to recreate it once a year when you are doing a presentation for your company. And especially newcomers will really like that because it helps them get oriented in a company. And yeah, I'm looking at my clock. But very, very quickly, next sheet is about one-on-ones. Yeah, you can have notes somewhere in a spreadsheet or in text tool or just in your head. But if you have it in the way like you have it here, you see the structure, like goals of a person for this year, but you see also last year goals. You can very easily evaluate how it was done, save it. Again, right now it's shared with everyone who has access to this application. You can update information about the people in your team, like for example, about the certificates, languages, soft skills, technical skills, many different types of information you need to make the right decisions. And naturally, there is also a place for unstructured notes because we know it's important, so it should be there. Otherwise, this won't be used. So this is the right place to share any unstructured feedback you want to provide about a specific person. And when I, for example, switch to Alex, okay, I have unsafe changes. How smart, it told me. When I switch to Alex, I see that there are no goals for this year. Why? And you see, this is a switch from not having information about employees into being suspicious when there is information missing in a few seconds, only thanks to the technology that's used for collecting the data. And on the last sheet, I'm going to finish off this demonstration. On the last sheet, you see the true power of Qlik based on all the data we just collected. Because, especially in large companies, when you need a person who speaks German, what do? You can go to HR and ask, who speaks German? Let me check. And the HR person runs some kind of internal research to realize who speaks German. In this app, based on the information I filled into Infinity Forms, I can very easily select levels of German I'm looking for. So now the HR people or HR person comes back. There are 14 people in the company who speaks German. And is there anyone who knows Java? Let me run the research again. I'll come back to you in 2 days or something like that. You don't need to do that. You just click here and you see that there is only one person in the company who speaks German in the end on a very advanced level and who knows Java. So this is a huge time saver for anyone. You don't need to bother HR people. You can let them be focused on what they really are good at. And you can really, really utilize the power of data you just collected in a very, very secure way. And the last thought about HR from my side regarding the current situation when the whole world is now learning Greek alphabet is that I think it taught us two things, many more, but mostly two things. The first one is that people can be productive when working from home. But the second one, and that's important, is how important the backup is. And I'm not talking only about the worst scenarios. I'm talking about having one HR person responsible for the whole agenda or significant part of agenda who gets sick and is unavailable for 2 or 3 weeks, 4 weeks. You can't just pause the company and say nothing will happen in 3 weeks because this person just got sick, right? And I already said that it's very important to be thoughtful when you think about hiring a new person. So if there isn't reason to hire a second person to your team or another person to your HR team, there is another way how to have a backup. Because when you have data collected in this way, and a person who is responsible for the data got sick for 2 weeks, you still can use the data here. You can do it on your own. You can do it in a self-service platform that Qlik definitely is, alongside with Infinity Suite products, and you can keep running the business, right? And when we are talking about cost, really great message for you, I think, is that what you just saw on my screen is available for free. You can download this whole application I just went through on our Infinity Universe, our demo portal, demo.myinfinity.com. When you are not logged in, there is a request access button, so please click request access, fill the form, we will grant you access, and you can go through more than 30 template applications you can explore, including HR team management. And that's exactly the one you just saw. So feel free to explore the application here on the portal, download it, or just contact us. I really hope that you find it inspirational and useful. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Micah. That was really absolutely amazing. And the example with the late bonuses, if the person gets sick and they just don't have the data. Yeah, I completely remember working with one of our customers, previous customers, and yeah, it was exactly the situation. That's actually why they leverage this way of working, right? So to have all the data available. Maybe if you summarize.
Are they here on the webinar?
I don't know. Maybe if they are, they can raise their hand. but it's in good sense, like really sharing the experience about how the world can change if the process and workflows get automated, right? And there are so many areas. So if you just summarize like what we have seen, because it was just like a huge set of various use cases that can save so much time. Like I just can really imagine people working with Excel spreadsheets, sending them all over the place, and just spending the time of summarizing them. I love the idea of workflows, of having these really simple linear workflows that are guided by buttons fully customizable. So easy. It just can't be easier for the end user to just go through and click the buttons, right? That's a yes, no, or next, and whatever. That's the ultimate perfection. It just can't be easier. Yeah. Then really collecting this data from branches, for example, like if there are companies with various branches and you need to collect data on vacancies, for example, or various information HR related, right? So that's sending Excels is not and collecting Excels is not the best way how to do it. So that's much smarter. This communication, collaboration, just not just that we have the data, we can talk about the data. It's more like immersive for people. That's really great. Files and working with files, working with the content of files, just searching. I just forgot some attribute. Well, I don't have to do attributes. I just search, right? And I search full text, which is, which tool offers you full text search connected with data analytics and so on. Really, and basically what we have seen are basically workflows, right? Workflows unlimited, limited maybe just by our creativity, right? And we could talk about so many use cases also from our customers that really rebuilt the whole legacy applications, standalone applications to Qlik using Infinity, because it has benefits in terms of costs, in terms of the flexibility, agility in changing and adjusting the processes. So yeah, but running out of time, so just wanted to summarize this beautiful presentation and thank you very much for it as well. So Angie, over to you. You're muted. You are muted.
I expected this wouldn't happen this time.
It had to happen. I don't know what I can say after Stephanie and Maria. They're just great. I mean, I think the business benefits were kind of clear. So I mean, obviously the oversight, better management, better value, as you both, I mean, pointed out wonderfully. Cost savings. I really like that example, Maria, of you have this HR person. Like we were also recently looking for someone who speaks German, maybe, and asking around the company how well is the German. So really have again, this is related to security, which is the bottom. Because if that HR person is out, then probably the people don't have access to that. So you have to ask some IT admin, can you maybe give some C-level access, because you just can't give it to someone else. So to have it in a tool, it's really secure. Is amazing. That's the only thing I can really. I just want to add, as an ex-CFO, is really focused on the security aspect of it, because there's laws everywhere, wherever you are in the world, about taking care of the personal data. Yeah, and I think the flexibility was clear as well. I'm having some trouble switching. Yeah, I saw we did have some questions and answers, and we'll jump to those. Just before we do, because I won't go back to the presentation. If you have any questions, you can contact me, and we'll pass on to whoever is the proper one. I can discuss directly as well. And also we have this fantastic possibility, Maria on Demand. It's tomorrow, so we've been inspired. I don't know if you want to mention something about that, Maria, and then we'll jump right into the questions that I saw. Yeah.
Let's book a call with me if there is anything you would like to discuss, or also if there is anything you would like to hear. I'm very open to hear any constructive feedback, any thoughts about what can be done better, or what, for example, you miss in the current solution or the current extensions available in QlikSense. But also, if you just want to discuss your use case and maybe hear some of my thoughts, feel free to book the call. I'm looking forward to hear you.
Okay, so without further ado, I'll go to the questions.
Now is the right time to ask questions. So if you would like to know something.
Nice compliments we have here. Yeah. There's something in Polish. Yeah, it is being recorded. Yeah, I don't know. I think there's lots of compliments I can only agree with. Yeah. Do we have any questions? I'm sure someone, if you're shy to speak, you can type it right in, and we'll just answer it. Well, I can, while you guys think about what the question could be. The question could be, because we do have these programming masterminds on here, development masterminds, and the question is, that looks really nice. How difficult is it to create something like that? I mean, is it is it extremely complicated to create something like that? Obviously is really high level, but to really start using Infinity, I mean, how difficult, or how is that for normal user?
I think I can start very quickly, because no one will believe me. And then Stephanie will share her experience, more trustable. I personally think that start with the Infinity Suite is very easy. And if you want to deep dive into some very powerful combination of Infinity Suite together with the QlikSense knowledge and experience is very, very helpful, because as was mentioned, we really are developing Qlik native product. So sky is the limit, and you can be creative, but you need to know what can be done within the Qlik itself. So that's very helpful. Also, that's the reason why we work very closely with partners, having the knowledge like that. But as I mentioned, I think that we all want to hear that from Stephanie.
Yeah, sure. So I have worked with the Infinity extension from quite an early release. And what I would say from personal experience is that the later the releases we've had to upgrade to, the the more intuitive the extension can be, and it has been. So with some experience, you can easily start off with using the extension and build a solution pretty quickly. It can vary depending on how complex your process is. The example that I showed earlier is actually quite a complex process where we're trying to join multiple forms into a centralized location. It took a bit of time to develop it, but in terms of building the flow objects and the individual form objects, it was really quick to do. So, and we're finding the more projects we're getting in at Differentia, we're developing these applications a lot quicker. So with a bit of experience, but having had no experience with Infinity at the start of this year, it didn't take long to pick up on the basics of using the tool. So I've had only but good experience with it.
Well, thank you very much, Steph, for the feedback, and it's even more valuable because Differentia Consulting has been actually one of our really first partners, and that's what I personally really honor much, I would say, because really, like, you trusted us guys, like, was somewhere beginning of last year, so really cooperation taking place for quite some time, and thank you really for this. For this cooperation and really building these amazing solutions like test and trace. So cool.
Yeah, no problem. The one thing I probably should have mentioned is your documentation. Everything is in the documentation. It's so clear to understand. There's a couple of cases actually where I've reached out to your support team to query a particular part that I was trying to develop, and I was directed to the documentation. So I obviously just missed it when reading through the documentation, and it was there clear as day. So the documentation has helped massively when it's come to using it and engaging with it. So yeah, definitely a go-to.
Thank you very much. That's also very important feedback for us. We will keep investing the time into the documentation as well as other resources.
It's welcoming your documentation. It's not, sometimes you can read documentation like it's a 200-page book and you think, where do I start? But it's really clear and it's also engaging. It's not just all text. There's a lot of great examples in there, images to demonstrate different parts of the process and stuff. So yeah, the documentation's been good for me personally.
Thank you. And Mark and Angie, I know you both use Infinity Suite in internal processes mostly. So what's your experience?
Yeah, I can't really live without it anymore. That's why I'm in Infinity, actually, because I see the real business value of this. You know, every time I also created some kind of disruption when I came because I insist on doing everything in Qlik with Infinity. Get rid of the Excels. Yeah, it's easy. It's easy to use. I'm not a developer, but I can understand Qlik, and I'm also able to create some things with Infinity without having special training. And I do agree with I had to say this for you, Micah, that it's right about the documentation, because I do have a tendency just to ask the question, and I always get the answer. Even you don't have to read it. There's even a video you can watch if you don't want to read the documentation. So yeah, no, I really, it's exactly what you said, that HR data is often the one that kind of gets like forgotten, and I'm absolutely guilty of this. Yeah, we tried, but we didn't manage. But at the time, Infinity wasn't there. We would have managed. We would have, because I know the issue was some data quality issues, and the process became really complicated. That you couldn't just use the data. And with this Infinity tools, you can easily just fix the data quality issues right in the tool. For people who maybe are not so data literate, that can. So yeah, that's my experience. I'm here as
yeah, that's really great. We worked together, Angie, and you were really one of the most innovative customers and people I actually met when working together. So that's just so great. And since we're kind of over time, but for the ones who haven't left yet, so So my experience with actually I shifted. I kind of changed roles in my life because I started as a programmer at the university. I studied business, but I was always close to computers and programming. And then I founded my first business, and basically I became a person who worked with people, and worked with people for 20 years. And yeah, and working with people is completely different to working with computers, which we all know. It's a absolutely different way of communication, and the way how people really receive information and translate this information into action, right? So what I'm trying to say is that really, if you want to really work with people and be successful and really make people happy and be happy with the communication, you need to know people, right? And people should ideally know each other, because the more we know each other, the better, right? The better the communication, right? The better perception of everything we say. And but it can get really complex, right? Because everybody is individual. It's a very complex personalities. So how to master this? Unless you're a communicating mastermind, can be difficult. And I really loved the way how Ray Dalio solved it. It's kind of nicely written in the book Principles. He solved it by introducing something like baseball cards for all of his colleagues. These baseball cards were shared internally and openly with everyone. And what they actually meant was kind of a set of skills, strengths, weaknesses, basically an overview of a person, right? Like knowing about the people. And it was made available so that everybody knows about everybody. You can imagine what happened when they released it, sharing all this information. But it was a good feedback, and it really helped the communication. But the question is like how to capture all this information. So this can be the way, right? So Qlik, we have all these actuals, all the information about performance, about everything that you connect to Qlik, and then you can have Infinity, where you can capture the information that you just don't have in a database, right? Various feedbacks and inputs about from meetings and so on. Yeah, so that's my experience. That's very very powerful.
I had to interrupt and say I have a question. Yeah, finally, thank you, Dion Plant. I hope I'm pronouncing properly. Do you guys have training videos targeted at implementing each product? I will hand over to Maria, because I'm always afraid to say the wrong thing about the available videos.
The answer is yes.
That's what I thought. I'm glad to hear.
Perfect. There is a YouTube profile, Infinity, and under this YouTube profile, you can find many inspirational videos, but there is also a list of Technical Tuesday videos. And that's a series of technical videos, naturally, recorded mostly by myself, but also by some of my colleagues. And every single video is focused on a particular thing regarding the product. It might be function or a new feature in a release, or explaining how something works based on the feedback I'm receiving. Recently, there has been a mini series within this Technical Tuesday video series that's called Get Started with Infinity Flow. So it really provides you the overview of how to think about this object itself, because it's really unique in the Qlik ecosystem. So you can watch the video and understand how to think about it, and how to build your first Infinity Flow in your Qlik apps. And naturally, then there is this documentation available, other more advanced videos, and so on, and you can build on that knowledge by yourself. And definitely doing something that for Infinity Forms is what I have in plan early next year. So some version of Get Started with Infinity Forms will be available. And as for now, you definitely can go through available videos. I really think you will find all the answers there.
And you also prepared an amazing app with a great overview of everything, which you showed me. Not sure if it's already available, but it's just amazing. Once you
that's true. We don't know. We learn something new every day as well, actually. So if there's no more questions, last time you can raise your hand or something. Thank you, everyone, for the presentation. I was really honored to be here and listen to this, working with this great company and with a great partner, and looking forward to helping everyone expand their Qlik and HR processes usage. And it's the last one for 2021, so happy holidays. And Martin's muted.
Yeah, just you took it from my tongue. Like I want to say like Merry Christmas because it's just around the corner. So so it's amazing, and also thank you very much, and you know my pleasure being in the group with you, amazing ladies here. So thank you very much.
Great to have you here.
You brought us together, Martin. Yeah.
Thank you.
So,
Thank you everyone, and hope to see you soon.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
See you tomorrow if you book the call with me.
Yeah, exactly.
Bye. Thank you, guys.